Hello, folks. Welcome to this tornado outbreak short summary, looking at the tornado outbreak sequence of May 1896, a blast to the past, if you will. This event lasted from the 15th to the 28th of May, making it one of the longest tornado outbreak sequences recorded, and one of the worst tornadic events in the entirety of United States or just North American continent history. While the conditions that caused all of these, the entirety of the sequence is unknown, we at least do know that the multiple low pressure systems involved were at least predicted to cause storms by the Weather Bureau. This is the time before Doppler. This is the time before modern tornado prediction and how we know it today. For a better lack of the word, this is rudimentary stuff that we're going with here, just before 1900, and things wouldn't really kick off until after World War II, which is still a fair bit away. So rudimentary, despite everything, because that's not to say that we were stupid back then in 1896, because these storms were predicted. The Weather Bureau, however, did vastly underestimate what these storms would bring. Tornadoes affected states from Texas all the way up north to Michigan, from Texas to Maryland. Seven more states, as well as these three, would be affected, for a total of 10 states seeing at least one tornado from this entire sequence. This sequence produced more than 38 confirmed tornadoes over the course of 9 days, which doesn't seem like a lot, especially for such a long sequence, and you'd be right. That is because most tornadoes went undocumented at this time. As our detection methods continue to get better and better, we see a general increase in tornadoes. These are most tornadoes are F0 and F1s, or F or EFU tornadoes, meaning unknown rating, because they lasted for such a short time. So really what we're seeing is more of the stronger tornadoes being recorded. So 38 pretty strong tornadoes, at least F2 and above, are recorded here. Of these 38, 9 of them were violent tornadoes, F4 and above. It is worth noting that none of these ratings from these tornadoes are official. However, Dr. Grisoulis has given these tornadoes ratings, which is what we are going off of here. The NWS has not confirmed these tornadoes as being officially rated. This is not to say that Dr. Grisoulis is wrong. Dr. Grisoulis is a tornadoologist on par with Dr. Ted Fujita. So his word should definitely at least still be accounted for, and that is what I'm going to be doing here. This event, over the course from the 15th to the 28th, caused more than 450 deaths, injured more than 1,900 people, and caused more than 10 million in 1896 US dollars in damage. That is, if I remember correctly, that's somewhere like 3 billion in today's dollars. The first tornado we're going to go for, or look at, sorry, happened on the 15th, May 15th, happened from East Pilot's Point to Sherman, Texas. This F5 had a path 45 kilometers long and killed at least 77, injuring a minimum of 200. This tornado was documented to have shifted homes off of their foundations, tore and twisted an iron bridge off of its moorings in Sherman, Texas. Reportedly, some pieces of this iron beam bridge were even torn off and thrown distances and dug into the ground. Cemetery headstones were shattered from this tornado. It is not known whether this was from pieces of this iron bridge, though. A 500-pound, that's roughly 250 kilo, stone was carried around 250 yards, which is around 230 or so meters. According to Dr. Grisoulis, this is one of the worst tornadoes ever recorded. And while I usually am skeptical of tornadoes happening so far long ago, granted, iron technology and iron, the way we make steel and iron has improved, not to an extent that would completely negate the damage that this tornado did, especially to this bridge and cemetery headstones. I am absolutely going to believe this F5 rating by Dr. Grisoulas. Another F5 happened 2 days later when it went from Palmer, Kansas to Falls City, Nebraska. This tornado trekked an extremely impressive 160 kilometers. So, my best guess is that it was likely a tornado family. However, it is possible that it was just a single tornado as well. This tornado killed at least 25, injuring around 200 people. This tornado happened almost a perfectly even distance in between Omaha to its north and Kansas City to its south. If it started just a few dozen more miles north or south, it would have affected either one of these two cities, similar to how the Bremen, Kentucky F4 nearly impacted more major cities along its route if it was just a little bit further north or south. So, thank goodness for that at least. This tornado was reportedly 2 miles wide, which is unfortunately near impossible to wholly confirm, but I'm going to believe this with some grains of salt, at least. This tornado would wreck the communities of Seneca, Oneida, I hope I pronounced that right, and Sabetha, Kansas, leaving only 3 buildings in the entirety of Reserve, Kansas undamaged. Every single other one was either severely damaged or completely destroyed. Our third notable went from Polk City to Mingo, Iowa. This F4 happened on the 24th of May, had a track 45 kilometers long. This tornado would kill 21 and injure 60. Homes were destroyed, numerous homes in Bondurant, Valeria, Santiago, Mingo, and more. This tornado very nearly hit Des Moines, Iowa, which all of these cities are more or less suburbs of Des Moines. So, very, very close call. A steel railroad rail spike, sorry, no, it's a straight up piece of rail, pardon me, was driven 15 feet into the ground. That is what? Let me do some unit conversion. Something like 4 or so meters, a little bit more than that, into the ground. That is crazy. What's also crazy, there's another F5 on the 25th of May. This F5 went from the north of Holly to the west of Dryden, Michigan. This tornado had a trek roughly 50 kilometers long, a little bit under there, and caused a minimum of 45 deaths while only injuring 10. This was almost close to being the absolute worst case scenario that you could ever have for a tornado. This was a nighttime violent tornado. We do not know if it was fast moving or rain wrapped. That would have made it an ultimate worst case scenario, but still not a good time. Most homes that were close to this tornado's path, even despite it being so narrow, up to around, say, at minimum, I saw around 10 or so yards were very heavily damaged or just straight up completely destroyed. The one tornado that we actually have damage photos of happened in St. Louis. Our fifth notable happened in St. Louis, Missouri, and East St. Louis, Illinois. This was an F4 that happened on the 27th of May, had a track of 19 kilometers long. This tornado killed more than 250 people, injured more than 1,000, causing more than $10 million in damage, that being 1896 USD as well. Reportedly, this tornado hit downtown St. Louis at 1 mile wide, and was apparently very close to being F5 in East St. Louis. This tornado was extremely powerful, and it embedded a 2 by 10 wood plank into an iron plate that was 8 millimeters thick. That is pretty crazy. That is insanely powerful. This tornado would damage 12,000 structures, just a few of them being seen here in these damaged photos. While that is all the notables that I have, let's go over the significance of this event. This is an extremely long tornado sequence, most likely due to the fact that with just the lack of tornado reports at the time, things really had a hard time, information had a hard time kind of spreading around compared to as fast as it does nowadays, we have where we saw multiple videos of the same tornado that happened from Milton in Florida just a few days ago. But this sequence being so long is likely attributed to the time that it happened in 1896. If it were to happen nowadays, this thing would likely be split up, kind of like how nowadays, let's say that the 2011 super tornado outbreak happened around this time. There was like two other outbreaks that happened before the super outbreak. One from like the first to the fourth or something, and then there's another outbreak that happened from the 9th to the 11th, and then the super outbreak happened from the 25th to the 28th of April. All of these combined could be defined as one long sequence. My guess is that this is similar to what happened with this event, where just multiple events were just kind of conglomerated, and it didn't help that they affected the same areas as well. In any case, Dr. Grzoulis states that it is most likely that the 24th through the 28th were the worst days of the event. This is where most of the tornadoes are reported for this event. The F5 that we saw in Michigan, or that I went over in Michigan, is the second deadliest tornado that has ever happened in that state's entire recorded history. The St. Louis F4 is the third deadliest tornado in United States history, and it's good to be kept that way. Lastly, states that very rarely see tornadoes like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan, and even Maryland saw tornadoes. This is 4 out of the 10 states. Texas, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky. More states were hit from this event. Total of 10, like I mentioned at the beginning. But it is uncommon, especially in May here. Granted, this is only data from 1950 to 2014. But the point still stands that Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Maryland do not see tornadoes, especially in May, more or less at all throughout the entire year. Just straight up don't normally see tornadoes. And this event caused tornadoes in that state, in these states. That is certainly worth mentioning, and a little bit of an oddball for this event, not to mention just how long the event is. With that being said, folks, that is all that I have for this tornado outbreak sequence of 1896. I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.